That's right. It's Monday night. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, coming to you live from the lab. CP3, you know who it is. Yesterday, I had three shows yesterday. It was crazy. It was on the air till like 11 o'clock at night. Did a commercial shoot for our partner Eric Kuzia. Shout out my man aside. Appreciate so you just shared the feed for me. Appreciate that, bruh. One love. You see, you posted some of the pictures of the commercial shoot yesterday. Stay tuned for the video on that. But that's beyond the point. Just had to give a shout out. But I know I'm tired. Robbie, how are you tonight, man? I done had a rough day, man. I've been training. I got homework after the show, bro. It's been another long day. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing really well. I actually had the day off. I hope that my fellow Jews had an easy day of fast if they did do that. Yeah, it's nice working for a school where there's a lot of Jewish people that work there as they give us the Day of Atonement off, which is good. And it's the holiest of holy days for those who are not Jewish. Yeah, but I had a great day with Zach. We went out and played some sports, kicked the ball around, and just beautiful day just to hang outside with him. And it was nice. My parents took him for the weekend and for part of it, and gave us some time yesterday. And fortunately, watched the Washington football team not play particularly great, but it was a fun weekend. I'm excited for the Lakers to get back all the way to the finals, so that's exciting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The Stanley Cup Finals, crazy games. I can't wait to break that down at the end of tonight's show while watching Game 6 live. So yeah, lots of sports news, lots of great stuff going on. I can't complain too much. I'm so used to sharing your YouTube feed, and I realized I should share your Facebook feed now again because
Yeah,
you're back.
I'm rehabilitated and I'm not going back, Robbie.
They,
I tell you, I'm not.
I believe you.
Yeah, man, it hurt. Even though yesterday on the show, 151 said I might have crossed the line a little bit on one of my post games, but I don't think so. I haven't got flagged. I'm still here, and it was nothing bad. It was nothing bad. I was actually in training all day for my new position, and on Saturday, if everything goes well, if anybody's looking for a new Honda or a new vehicle, come holler at your boy down at Honda Water or Famous Plug, because that's what I do. Also, go check out SportsOTHP.com for all the episodes, the great interview that Robbie mentioned with Dewey had with Judy Donaldson last week. One of our best interviews, I feel. And hopefully we'll be able to do it again. Hopefully you might see your boy on some, Washington football team stuff soon if I can, work my magic. But, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I want to speak on that real quickly. I thought it was a great interview that you and Julie did. I wish that we had time in tonight's show to like air it. Usually you would air a great interview like that within a podcast, but it's so good standalone, and it's just a really awesome 25 minutes or so. I really encourage anybody on any of our podcasting platforms to go check it out. As Carol was mentioning, I think it's the best interview we've ever done. We learned so much. I went back and listened to it 2 or 3 times because in some of her responses, you're able to glean a ton of information. And I really encourage everyone to go back and check that out. It was a lot of fun. I love the fan participation at the end, getting a couple of fan questions in there. That was really great. And yeah, it's on the Facebook page and it's on our website as well, sportsothp.com. It'll be one of the ones beneath tonight's post once I post all of that.
Or you can listen to it on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Just go hashtag SportsOTHP on most of your podcasting platforms, just on social media, period. It's going to pop up because that's just what we do. But it's been an interesting week. You was mentioning the Lakers making it to the finals. Congratulations. LeBron going, to the finals again. Especially with Kobe's passing earlier. So I must say, I guess I might be rooting for the Lakers this year, even though I'm not a
Ooh.
big basketball fan. But Robbie, I guess I'm on the good side with you now, with rooting for the Lakers to win it all.
Yeah, real quickly, I mean, we'll speak more to it in the NBA roundtable, but I'm super excited that they made it back. I mean, it's been 10 years since they've been in the finals. Last time they made it, Kobe Bryant was injured with his Achilles injury, people remembered, and that was the last time they made the playoffs, and they got swept that year by the San Antonio Spurs, and so that was really tough. And I'm just excited for the team. It's really interesting. I was never a big LeBron James fan before. We've talked about that, but I just think that this team with AD and LBJ together has just been really exciting, and I'm so proud. A lot of the same reasons I'm rooting for them, in Kobe's memory. And yeah, it's just an incredible run. And just 9 out of 10 times for LeBron to make the NBA Finals. And it's basically either been the Heat or the Warriors in every year for the last 10 years, which I thought was crazy. And so that means Iguodala or LeBron James has been in every single one of the finals, and then they're matching up against each other again. There's a lot of great stories. Him going against his old team, the team that he finally learned how to win a championship with. So there's a lot of interesting storylines to this NBA Finals for sure. So I'm excited to break that down a little later.
Well, damn, I done learned something new that quick in just the first 10 minutes of the show. I knew none of that stuff you just said, Robbie. So I'm going to definitely be listening to the NBA Roundtable to get some more nuggets like that, man.
Yeah,
Y'all always break down the NBA, even though it's, to me, not that good, but you guys always make it sound more interesting than I think it is. I'll put it that
way. Sounds good. All right. Well, with that, let's I was thinking we can bring in Arun, and we can kind of, for the next 10, 15 minutes, wrap up the last couple of games for the Nationals. And let's talk about, before we get into that, the batting champion. I think that's such a cool thing. Carol, if you want to break.
You mentioned that, Robbie, because actually Juan Soto is the youngest ever to be the batting champion, is what I saw.
Yep.
Across my line. So this dude, man, I'm not even disrespecting this young man. What he's done in the short amount of time that he's been in the league, and the records that he's broke or tied, or the things that he's done. I mean, even though this season is over, they finished 8 games under 500. You still have something to smile about. Because I'm sitting here smiling about it, just thinking about it, the potential that he has, and they're going to sign him to a long-term deal. He's still on his deal when he came over from the Dominican. So I'm just waiting for him to lock him down. That's one of the reasons why they didn't sign Rendon back, because they knew they were going to have to sign Soto. Same thing with Robles, the way he's been playing. I can't overshadow his defense also. But Soto, that's my man, 50 grand. I love that kid. I love his game. I love the way he is at the plate. I love the way he plays at the field. He's going to be a great one.
Yeah, I think him and Trey Turner, you got to lock that core down, right? Because that's your next Ovechkin-Backstrom dynamic duo, right? I just love, what they both bring to the game. I love Trey Turner. I mean, that inside the park home run, it was one of the greatest plays I saw all season out of the Nationals. I thought both of them played phenomenal. They were both, tops in the charts for big portions of the season in a lot of statistical categories. And, I hope for big things for the two of them going forward. I mean, it's funny. Trey Turner is, he's kind of he's grown up a little bit, and he's just so great. I think he's really matured and grown into himself. And those two were the big bright spots for me for the national season. The fact is that they'll always put every ounce of effort they have into it, and they make it seem so effortless. Sometimes it's like I look at them and I'm like, wow, it just comes so easy to them. And I'm just excited, and I hope the Nationals lock them up for both for a long time.
No doubt. And just to piggyback on Trey, getting room into the conversation, you mentioned his inside the park home run. We actually had an inside the park home run this past week by another Nats player that I break down when we break down the game quick. But Trey, I've on the record several times saying how happy I was that we got him back after we traded him away, and the contributions he made during that World Series run and the World Series, and the fact that now he's the franchise leader in leadoff home runs, as a Nat, he's like you said, he's a 5-2 player. Hopefully they lock him down soon. I know he got a baby on the way, so go ahead and lock him down so he can settle down and raise his family and be our shortstop for years to come. Arun, how do you feel about Soto, his batting title, and the still young Trey Turner? He looks real young, but he still is pretty young, around 25, 26.
Yeah, that was he's the youngest player in NL history to win the batting crown since they've been recording the age since 1900 ever, so that's pretty good. And it's pretty, like Howie Kendrick tore his Achilles back a couple of years ago, and that's when Juan Soto came up, and he said that's probably the best thing that's ever happened to for the Nats because of that. Overall, just like Soto, they need to probably lock him up. It'd be nice to lock up Trey Turner. Rizzo's a good GM. He let Bryce Harper walk. We'll probably get into that a little bit when we discuss the games like going forward. But Soto's playing out of his mind. He's up for an MVP, which is pretty incredible considering he missed a couple of games due to COVID. He has like the highest on base batting, like OPS since like Barry Bonds in 2004. So this for Soto, everything's looking pretty good.
That's why I can always count on you, Arun. You came through with all the stats that I forgot to mention, and you mentioned them all. That's why I love you, man. You always had all those stats. You and Robbie, I love y'all stats.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just quickly break down the games, and then we can just kind of give our overall thoughts on the season, and then we can. I know Brian Brennan's waiting in the wings to discuss the playoff picture that we're unfortunately not a part of.
Yeah, you know the sad part about this is the best week they've had all year, and we got to rush through it. It's the end of the season. It's crazy that they had to end that way. They ended up the week 6-2. Ended up, as I said, 8 games under 500, 26-34. They won 3 out of 4 against the Phillies. The first game was a 5-1 victory. They were doubleheaders in this both of these matchups. First game they won 5-1. Sanchez earned his 3rd victory of the season. He went 5 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 earned run with 6 strikeouts and 4 walks. Zach Wheeler took the loss that put him at 4-1. He went 5 2/3, giving up 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 of those earned, with 7 strikeouts and 3 walks. Cabrera went 2 for 3 and had a RBI and a walk. The second game of the series, the Nats won that one also 5-1. I believe that was a doubleheader. Austin Voth finally earned his first victory of the season, puts him at 1-5. Best outing of the season, I must say. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run with 7 strikeouts and 1 walk. He actually beat Aaron Nola, who's been on the road against the Nats lately. With that, put Aaron Nola at 5-4. He went 6 innings, giving up 6 hits, 5 runs, 3 of them earned, with 6 strikeouts and 2 walks. Brock Holt went 1 for 3 with RBI. Double. The Nats had a 4-run 3rd inning, which was the difference in the game. And like I said, Austin Voth pitched pretty well. The next game was another victory for the Nats. They won that one 8-7. This one was a little funny. Hudson gave up a home run to end up losing the lead, but the Nats had a walk-off. I believe it was I forgot to write it. I think it was the 10th or the 11th. I'm not really sure. But Hudson ended up earning the victory, even though he blew the save. He went 1 inning, giving up 1 run, 1 strikeout with 2 walks. Brandon Workman, he ended up taking a loss and 1/3 of an inning, giving up 1 hit, 2 runs, 1 of them earned with a strikeout. Juan Soto went 1 for 3. That was his 12th home run of the season. That was a 3-run home run. And try to pronounce his first. This was this young man's first action in the big leagues. He's been in the minors for, I believe, I think they said he's 32 for like 15 years, and finally the Nats called him up. And this man, Yadi, I'm gonna get you. I know one of you guys know the proper way to say it, but Yadiel Hernandez went 2 for 4 with a 2-run RBI double and the walk-off home run in order to win the game for the Nats in extra innings. And the last game was a 12-3 loss by the Nats. Fetty took the loss. He went 7 innings, giving up 5 hits, 3 earned runs with 5 strikeouts and 1 walk. Zach Eflin earned the victory. That put him at 4-2. He went 8 innings, giving up 6 hits, 3 runs, 9 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Trey Turner had a grand slam. I mixed up my notes. That's pitiful. It was a loss by the Nats. I wrote my notes for the next series on that. Arun, I'll go to you. I know you probably couldn't pronounce the young man's name who had the walk-off that I just talked about. What did you think about this series with the Nats winning 3 out of 4 and pretty much dominating this series that we wanted to see all throughout the season?
It reminded me of last year because the Nats eliminated the Phillies from the playoffs last year, and this year they the Phillies were in playoff position, and then they ended up losing their playoff spot largely because of the series. So that was pretty interesting, like at least at that point in time. And then Bryce Harper was pretty angry in the last game of the series. He hits 2 home runs. Yadiel Hernandez in that walk-off win. He's like the oldest player with his first hit to have a walk-off hit as his first hit in MLB history at 33, and he only joined the majors because he defected from Cuba only a few years ago. So it's pretty incredible. And some are saying it's like it was a pretty good week for the Nats. It's like not like, I mean, it was a start of a pretty good week because it's been a pretty long season. But overall, good starting pitching. Other than the 12-3 loss, 3 wins is pretty good.
No doubt, Robbie. Did you check out this series, or you want me to just go ahead into the next one? I know you aching to get in some NBA.
I double muted myself. There you go. It's official show. It's happened. All right. No, I don't have a whole lot to say on it. I catch moments here and there, but there was so much going on with the the NBA and the NHL this week. I didn't catch the long stretches. I'm happy they did well at the end of the season. I'm happy that they at least tied with the Mets. So depending on which standings you look at, some have us above them due to a tiebreaker. Some have them above us because of alphabetical. But it's at least we're tied with them. We're not worse than them. So I will. It's a silver lining with a good final week.
Definitely. All right, let me wrap up the season and the final Nats talk of season 5. Unfortunately, we were hoping it would go longer, like that great run we had last year, but it is what it is. This series they had against the Mets, they won a 4-game series, 3-1. The first game, the Nats took the loss. Mets won 3-2. David Peterson earned the victory. That puts him at 6-2. He went 7 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Patrick Corbin took the loss. That puts him at 2-7. I know he want to forget this season when this season be over. Because I don't really know what happened with him. It wasn't all his fault. Like I said, some of the bullpen issues and some of the offensive issues he had earlier. So he was still a quality sign last year to help get the Nats champions. He gave up 10 hits, 3 runs, 3 strikeouts, and 3 walks. Edwin Diaz earned the save for the Mets. He went 1 inning, giving 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 strikeout. Josh Harrison went 2 for 2 with the RBI. The second game of the series, I believe this was a doubleheader also. This was a very entertaining game. I think I actually watched this game. The Nats won the game 4-3. Mad Max earned his 5th victory of the season. That puts him at 5-4. He went 6 innings, giving up 6 hits, 3 runs, 7 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Miguel Castro took the loss. That puts him at 1-2. He went a third of an inning, giving up 1 hit, 1 run, a strikeout, and a walk. Will Harris earned the save, his first as a Nat. He went 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs with 1 strikeout. And Andrew Stevenson went 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and 2 home runs. One of those was an inside the park home run off a play where the outfielder actually ran out of room and didn't slow down into the outfield wall and kind of knocked himself silly. And then when his teammate got the ball, he didn't even throw it in the infield. He was concerned about his teammate. So it was pretty much an uncontested inside the park home run. He definitely showed some nice signs at the end of the season, Andrew Stevenson. He was all over the score sheet this past week when I looked up all the stats and everything. So, like I said, we have plenty of ammunition in the tank for this team to continue to be good and hopefully get back to another World Series. The next game of the series was a Nats win also, 5-3. Sanchez earned the win, which puts him at 4-5. He went 5 in the third, giving 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 strikeouts with 1 walk. Porcello took the loss. That puts him at 1-7. He went 3 innings, giving up 8 hits, 5 runs, 3 of those earned with 3 strikeouts and 1 walk. And Daniel Hudson earned his 10th save of the season, going 1 inning with no hits, giving up 1 strikeout and 1 walk. Trey Turner went 2 for 4 in that game with a solo home run. And the game that I was giving the stats for when I was mentioning before, the Nats won the last game of the season, last game of the series, 15-5. Austin Voth earned his second victory of the season, and went 5 innings, giving up 9 hits, 4 runs, and with 4 strikeouts. Seth Lugo took the loss. That puts him at 3-4. That he had gave up 5 hits, 6 runs, 1 strikeout with 2 walks. And now the stats that I was reading earlier, Trey Turner went 2 for 5 with 7 RBIs and hit a grand slam. That was his 12th home run of the season. Stevenson went 2 for 4 with 3 RBI with a 2-run RBI double. Yan Gomes went 1 for 3. He had a solo home run also. And that was pretty much the end of the Nats season. Ended on a good note, 15-5. They can, go home and, still enjoy being World Series champs until somebody's crowned a little bit later. Room, did you catch any of this series before we get to MLB playoff talk with Brian, who I know is chomping at the bit to talk some playoff, even though we can't?
Yeah, it was like a similar series to the Phillies. The Nats eliminated the Mets officially from the playoffs with their chances. And then Scherzer, with his win, he got an 11th consecutive season in a row with a winning record. That's like the highest active, tied with Clayton Kershaw. Yeah, Stevenson was great with those 2 home runs. Trey Turner, he had a couple home runs in this series. Overall, it's like more what we wanted to see the whole year, but nice. It's at least the Nats have something to look forward to. They're bringing Turner, at least Soto, and Hudson, Scherzer, and Corbin back next year. They'll probably have a lot of other changes with Doolittle, Kendricks, being free agents among other players. And Davey Martinez got his extension, which is pretty good. And that was before the Phillies game, and he said we got DeGrom and Porcello. Porcello threw 1 hitter earlier in the year against the Nats. So that was his only win of the year. So it's just been that kind of year for the Nats.
Yeah, I remember. He had like a 15-game losing streak.
So it's it's nice that the Nats are playing well. Unfortunately, with this short season, it's too little, too late. But at least we have that to look forward to next year.
Yep.
No doubt. Robbie, why don't you go ahead and bring in Brian so we can start talking about this MLB playoffs and this crazy day of baseball that we're going to have coming up.
Sounds good. And yeah, I mean, the memories will last forever. We will enjoy them as World Series champions in our minds. That will, I still can't believe that we were able to do it last year. And I think that, Brian was mentioning this, and we were talking about this last week, that they're kind of an on-again, off-again team a little bit. So maybe this was just their off year, and maybe next year they can come on strong in a full season again. So a lot to be look forward to for the Nationals and Nationals fans. But yes, Brian, I know you're very excited. The Yankees are coming into the playoffs, and they are definitely a team to be reckoned with. There's going to be a bunch of different matchups. I'm just going to read the matchups real quickly, and then I'll let you kind of break some of them down with us. So as Carol was putting in the graphics, Wednesday is going to be an incredible day. You share this tweet with me. It's going to start with Cincinnati at Atlanta at 12 o'clock on ESPN. And then Houston at Minnesota at 12 p.m. That's on ESPN2. Then at 2 o'clock, Miami at the Cubs on ABC. And then at 3 p.m., the Chicago White Sox at Oakland on ESPN. And then Toronto at Tampa Bay on TBS at 4. St. Louis Cardinals at San Diego Padres at 5 p.m. on ESPN2. The Yankees are at Cleveland on ESPN. And the Milwaukee, against the Dodgers are on ESPN at 10 p.m. So it's 8 baseball playoff games in a single day, a record that has never happened before. And so my understanding is all of those ats are going to be the home teams for all 3 games. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is no travel during this series. All 3 games are going to be played at the same ballpark, whoever's the higher seed.
So the Yankees are the lower seed. That means there will be
Correct.
a win for all 3 games.
Yes, they're going to Cleveland.
Yes. Does that make you nervous to play a 3-game, where you have to win 2 of those in Cleveland, or how do you feel about that?
I mean, just talking specifically about the Yankee series, I am pretty nervous, especially because the Yankees did not play great baseball down the stretch. They were a very Jekyll and Hyde team all season. They had like one stretch where they were 16-6, and then one stretch where they went 5-15, and then followed that up with a stretch where they went 10-0, and then followed that up with a stretch where they went 2-6. So you don't know which team's going to show up. Plus, not to mention, yes, Garrett Cole is starting game one for the Yankees, and he's obviously an incredible pitcher, but the starter for Cleveland is going to be Shane Bieber, who is likely going to win the AL Cy Young Award. He won the Triple Crown of pitching this year. So I am very nervous, and also not being able to play at Yankee Stadium is going to be a problem too, because the Yankees were great at home all season, but really struggled on the road. So I don't know what to expect going into this series. To answer your question, yes, I am nervous.
Yeah, I got a follow-up question, just because it's an interesting scenario, these 3 road games. Is that just because of COVID this year, or is this the new way that the playoffs are going to be going forward?
Well, there were a lot of changes to baseball this year, and, the expanded playoffs were one of them. And a lot of people are kind of viewing this as like an experimental year for baseball. So I think they're going to figure it out like after the season, if it's going to be an expanded playoff, if we're going to keep the wild card round. And then I'll be interested to see if they do keep the wild card round, will they keep it a best of 3? And if they do keep it a best of 3, will it all be at one site? I don't know if that's particularly fair. But yeah, I don't really know, to be honest, like what they're going to do after the season with all these rule changes, like the universal DH and the runner on second rule and this expanded playoffs.
Right, and the double headers that were shorter.
Double headers, yeah.
So
keep the double header thing.
Yeah, I think they should keep the double header thing.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's the right amount of time for 2 baseball games in a single day. I think 9 innings twice is a lot of baseball.
Yes.
I mean, even for baseball enthusiasts, I think that's a lot.
Now, don't get me wrong. I could watch 9 innings of baseball.
No, 9 innings, but 18.
I mean,
9 innings times 2.
Double header with 9 innings. I've done it before, so I'm not really tripping. But it does make it more convenient, and it does, give a little bit more intensity to both games because it's only 7 innings.
Right. So it'll be interesting for sure. Arun, are any of the matchups? I've sort of quickly went through them, but did anything sort of stand out in your mind, or any of the teams that have made the playoffs that you think are interesting that you wanted to follow?
I guess like Yankees versus Cleveland's interesting, and then the Astros are back somehow, even though they lost Cole and Verlander. I wonder how they'll do without the trash cans or whatever.
I knew it was coming. I was expecting it from Brian.
Yeah, we threw you a curveball. There you go. But anyway, well, I'll ask Brian, is there any other series that you're also following that,
Yeah, and the other series in the AL, I think that's kind of interesting is the Athletics and the White Sox. The White Sox are back in the playoffs for the first time since 2008. So I'll be interested to see how they do. They have Jose Abreu, who's probably the MVP. And then in the NL, I'll be interested to see this Cardinals-Padres series as well, because the Padres have been in the news all season. A lot of people are paying attention to the Padres this year because they're very flashy, and they just do not care about the unwritten rules of baseball. So there's a lot of people who are really watching the Padres and paying attention to them this year. But St. Louis got in on the last day of the season, so we'll see how they do. They obviously have a postseason history as well. I'm interested in those 2 series, I think.
Right. And overall, are you happy about this expanded? At least I know it's just a demo, a test of a year, but is it something that excites you, or is it something? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I do like it, honestly. I actually tweeted this morning that the rule changes, all of them are actually starting to grow on me. Now that I've seen them in action for a little while, they're starting to grow on me. And if they do decide to keep them, I'm okay with it, honestly. Like I'm kind of used to it now. And if this is how the playoffs are going to be in the future, I guess I'm okay with it, which is not something I could have ever imagined myself saying at the start of this season before all this happened. So yeah, I kind of like it, honestly.
Yeah. Rue, what do you think of the format?
The format, I think I like the format. I just would like the robot umpires to be instituted to get rid of bad umpires. Yeah, and I don't know, the 7 innings is probably, I mean, it's a good change of pace. I don't know if they'll keep doing it, but it'll be interesting to see going forward.
All right, Carol, what are your thoughts on the expanded playoff format?
I'm not sure if we can use it going forward. I mean, for this situation, I mean, that's a lot of teams and a lot of baseball for the playoffs. But I mean, I'm gonna wait and see how it goes. I mean, it's always good to have more teams, more excitement, more of a playoff, which is a bonus. But I want to go back to the team that Brian was speaking about, San Diego. They have really surprised me this year. I haven't really been watching closely, but they're kind of like the second team that I like, and with Tatis and
Machado.
Yeah, I was never a Machado fan when he was in Baltimore. I think I was in Baltimore, but he's done some good things out there. He's been mature. Really had I think he had a couple of little issues this season, with personality stuff. But other than that, like you say, they don't follow the unwritten rules of baseball. They had the controversy about Tatis hitting on the 3-0 pitch when he hit a home run, grand slam when the game was already out of hand. But I mean, if you throw a 3-0 fastball right down the middle, what you supposed to do? Just swing it.
Yeah.
I never understood why they were upset about it, but I'm really gonna be watching San Diego to see what they do, because I think they're really gonna be an interesting matchup going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I really like I think you can make a case for both Machado and Tatis being the MVP, and they're probably going to help. They're probably going to split some of the votes, honestly. And same thing with the Dodgers. There's too many players who can win the MVP, but you could really make a case for both Machado and Tatis being MVP candidates. I think Freddie Freeman's going to win it overall, but they both had great seasons, and I think a lot of people. It's weird that a team from San Diego is attracting this much attention, but the Padres are in the news a lot. They're in the news almost every day for something to do on the field. So hopefully we'll see if they keep it up. We'll see if the Padres go on a nice run here.
No doubt. So I know we ran a little over with
No, I think we're right on time, actually. That was perfect.
Okay, well, hey, it's always a good thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to bow out. Let you guys talk some NBA playoffs, and I'll sit back and chill before we talk to Washington football in the top of the hour.
Sounds good. Thank you, Carol. And all right, we're going to bring in our next guest, DC's People's Champ. And nice. I like the dramatic opening. You're going to have to unmute yourself, though, Champ. There we go.
Well, I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. What's up?
Hey, no problem. You're good. Good. I like the Washington football gear. The new I don't have any new gear. I need to get the face mask. I thought that's going to be iconic. That's going to be a piece of history for a long time. And I love the championship belt as always. How are you doing today?
I'm well. It seems like everybody's having a case of the Mondays except me. My Monday was actually pretty chill for once.
Yeah, I actually had a really good Monday too. I'll take the day off, even if it's for not, of course, the happiest of reasons, just in the Jewish religion, but I'll take it regardless.
How are you doing with that, Robbie? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I didn't fast. I didn't do any of the things I was supposed to do today. So I'll be 100% real.
Black GOP would be so disappointed in you, Robbie. You know he would be so disappointed in you.
I don't know. Maybe he would be. I don't know. We'll see. I've always been very, very Jewish in certain things, but not in everything. So
Jewish adjacent.
Exactly. Yeah. I do enjoy my shellfish, and I do enjoy eating today. So it's one of those things that it's one of those things that happen. All right, we're gonna bring in our next guest here. We got Tim Clark, who's part of our roundtable. I think he's still logging in. There we go.
I'm here.
There you go.
Hey guys.
How are you doing?
Good. Am I just on time? Late?
You're just on time. No, you're perfect. Okay, we're all in at 7:40. Top of the time. It's awesome. All right. Well, let's talk East first, since East kind of wrapped up yesterday, and then we'll talk West. We're going to break down how we kind of got to it, the NBA Finals, that is. I'm going to pull up all of the games just so I get the scores correct. But it's been an interesting – both series were great. I enjoyed both of them immensely. I was worried that they might be short series. I thought that the West was obviously a little bit shorter than maybe I would have liked, but the result was the way I wanted, so I can't complain too much. And this Heat Boston series was a bit back and forth. Boston taking the first two, and then Miami taking the first two, and then they lost the third one to Boston. So that's kind of where we were at the end of the last one, and they repeated doing the exact same thing this week. Had a 2-1 week, and that obviously gives them the 4-2 victory in the series. The three games that happened this past week were Wednesday, September 23rd. Miami won 112-109. On Friday, September 25th, they lost to Boston 121-108, and Boston was able to win the clincher yesterday 125-113. So I'm going to go around the group and get their takes on the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to start off with DC's People Champ. I know this is his favorite series to talk about, so go for it.
Listen, call me Nostradamus. I said it was going to be Heat in 6. Nothing against the Heat. I just figured that Boston was not going to go away and not going to go away quietly, and they didn't. What I noticed from these last three games, number one, is Tyler Hero is a hero for that team. He averaged about 23 points these last three games, including that 37-point explosion he had in game 4, in which he came off the bench. He wasn't a starter. He was off the bench and scored 37 points. I kept saying his name, Tyler Hero. That's going to be a kid you're going to keep an eye on for the next few years because he's got it. He's got it. He's a shooter. He plays well. The other thing, again, is that Miami's just a complete team. They're such a complete team. They don't rely on one or two guys to score. You can see that from their performances. So this was a series right here that was very defining for the Heat, for Eric Spoelstra, and showing how good of a coach Eric Spoelstra is to take a team of not really big stars, but somewhat stars, and turn them into a team that can contend for a championship. So good to Eric Spoelstra. Boston had a good run, but they just ran into a team that was too complete and too together to be stopped. That's all it was.
Yeah, for sure. Rin, what are some of your thoughts on this series?
I also picked the Heat going in, but it was I think the first couple of games are really close, and Boston, I thought probably should have won either game 1 or game 2, like at least one of those games. But then after that, it wasn't then Miami just kind of really took over, like Tyler Hero, as you mentioned, with 37 points. That's or 38, I think. It was the most.
It was 37.
37? Okay.
Yeah, it was 37.
Then that was the most. Other than that's Magic Johnson as a rookie. Somebody on the 76ers had 30 plus points coming off the bench. I forget who it was, in the 1980s. And then Bam was ridiculous. He after a pretty disappointing game 5, he came out on fire with 30 plus points. The Celtics, they were I don't know what was really wrong. I think they got a little too isolation heavy in the fourth quarter. In that game, they had a 5-point lead, and then they were down by 5, and they were doing a lot of hero ball. Marcus Smart took 20 plus shots. Those shots should be going somewhere else. Gordon Hayward had a good game 4, but he was pretty rusty. Game 5 and game 6, I don't think he really helped them. It'll be interesting to see what Boston does going forward. But Miami, as Ken mentioned, they're a complete team, and they just go to the hot hand. Andre Iguodala was the hot one. He had shot 100% from the field, 100% from 3, and of course 50% from the free throw line. Just Boston definitely had the talent, but they just need to get over that hump. It's 3 conference finals in 4 years, but they just come up short every time.
Yeah, Tim, what are some of your thoughts on the Celtics and them coming short?
Well, one thing that I thought was really interesting, especially the last 3 or 4 games of the series, is although Miami is a really deep team and they played a lot of guys throughout the year in the first couple rounds, they essentially just played a 7-man rotation. Their 8th guy is Solomon Hill, only plays 3 or 5 minutes a game, so they go very small. They really rely on those 7 guys. There's really not even a center unless you count Bam as a center. And so the Celtics countered and had a strong game 5 because they got a lot out of Enes Kanter, because he was able to dominate a little bit inside. And although he didn't play nearly as well in game 6 and played a lot less. So you got to give, a lot of credit to the coach, also the GM, for picking up rookies like Nunn and Hero in the same season. And also Spoelstra is able to kind of tinker with his lineups depending on the matchup. And a guy like Kelly Olynyk, who's pretty important and plays big minutes, got a lot of do not play coaches' decisions. So it was just interesting how they shortened their bench like that. And then for Boston too, I mean, it's true, they really did play way too much hero ball. You saw a lot of threes pretty early in the shot clock that they might go in, but generally not high percentage shots. And just the way that every game was close, and you could argue that Boston deserved to win pretty much all of them, but it just seemed like in the fourth quarter during winning time, the Heat and their hero, who was born in like 2000 or whenever it was, were cool, calm, and collected. And so maybe that's the coach. Maybe it's just the Heat have slightly better players. But as a Boston fan, you have to be really disappointed because it was a very close series and could have went the other way. But Heat are marching on. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I felt kind of two ways about it. I mean, obviously, I'm going to root for the Lakers over whoever was going to make it. But that historic rivalry of Celtics versus Lakers, part of me did want that to come back just because I know in the past, some of the greats have said you're not a true Laker legend unless you beat the Celtics. I mean, historically, that's kind of been true. I thought it'd just be kind of a cool thing to have LeBron have, if he was able to take the Lakers over the Celtics, just to kind of continue that, history. But it's obviously interesting for LeBron to go up against his old team, the one that made him a champion. I talked about that at the top of the hour. It's just interesting to see him go, because remember he got to a championship, but he couldn't win it with Cleveland, and then he went, and Miami went 4 years in a row, and it was pretty incredible. And then he was able to go 4 years in a row with Cleveland on the back end of that, and then obviously didn't make it last year, and then again. So 9 out of the last 10 years for LeBron. It's going to be really interesting to see him go against the franchise that made him made him a champion, right? So
also all the Pat Riley stories are cool because he used to coach the Lakers, so way back when. So you'll see a lot of how great he is, which is true.
Right, the Don versus the King, and I've seen a lot of these sorts of memes already out there. Brian, Brennan, what are some of your thoughts on Miami advancing?
Yeah, Miami really showed they're a complete team. This series was a very close series straight from the start. I believe after Game 4, both teams had the same number of points through 4 games, yet Miami had a 3-1 lead. So they were just getting the breaks, and everything was going right for Miami. And no pun intended, but I mean, there's a different hero for Miami every night. And Tyler was one of them, obviously, in Game 4, giving the Heat the 3-1 lead with the 30-plus points and just an incredible shooting game. Crazy to think how young he is, and he's just balling out in the NBA playoffs. He's the first player born in the decade of the 2000s, the 2000s millennium, to play in the NBA Finals, which is crazy. And the Heat just have a complete roster. You mentioned Iggy as well, another great performance from him as well. A really great showing from them. I'll be interested to see how the Celtics offseason goes. I think they'll be back next season and strong in the East because the East really still has a lot of question marks. But Miami, I'm very impressed with. I think they're the right team to represent the East in the finals. They've been just great since they've come to the bubble. If I'm not mistaken, they still haven't lost back-to-back games yet in the bubble. So they've been the best team in the East since the bubble started, at least.
Right. No, they've really kind of come out of nowhere, but I think they're the true complete team. And I think in these sort of scenarios where it's just really strange and unlike any other season. I think if you can bond together and be the best teams, and I think that eventually the two best teams rose to the top. And it's interesting because I think for the Lakers, you'd always think you'd have to win through LeBron, but they're really playing through AD and doing some interesting things that are different. It'll be interesting to see if the length of the Lakers gives the Heat some fits. But let's break down how the Lakers got there, and then I'll get all of your takes at the very end about how you see the series going, or at least through the first three games, because we'll preview kind of the first three games, and then next week we'll recap those and talk about the next set of three. For the Lakers series, when we last left off, they had won both of their games. On Tuesday, they actually lost to Denver 106 to 114. Then they were able to come on strong again. On Thursday and Saturday, they were able to win 114 to 108 and 117 to 107. AD playing very well. LeBron, playing a great team game. Just really kind of impressive throughout. Brian, I'll let you start with this one. What were your thoughts on this series?
Well, Denver definitely didn't quit at any point in this series. When they were all down 3-1, I think we all had the same thought that maybe they were going to have another comeback here. But the Lakers were just too strong. I mean, they showed it. They really put them away in both games 4 and 5, leaving no doubt, in my opinion, who the better team was. Denver will be back. Grant had a great game for them in Game 5. He's going to opt out and be a free agent. We'll see if they bring him back. And Jokic, of course, and Murray both kind of struggled. The Lakers kind of slowed both of them down a bit in this series, which is the key. Because if you slow down their two best players, you pretty much slow down the rest of the team. But, Lakers are like I said about the Heat being the right team out of the East. I really believe the Lakers are the right team out of the West. They've been the best team in the West all season, even before the bubble, even before the pandemic. So they deserve to be here. And, LeBron, incredible. This is, I believe, his 10th finals appearance, which is just crazy. He's been in just about every finals for the last decade, except for last year. What can you say? The guy is one of the best players of all time, unquestionably.
Right. And it's a guy that I found myself rooting against through his history. And now it's weird to be on the other side, rooting for him, because he always played in the Eastern Conference, against teams that the Wizards don't like or have history or whatever. And now here he is playing for my favorite team in the West, and I'm like, oh man, it was tough. But ever since what happened to Kobe, and he said all the right things, he's really made me pull for him. And I really like the idea of seeing AD come out of his shell. No, I mean, he's always been amazing, but like to really to take it to the next level, the superstar level, and be able to play off LeBron like he does. And he tried to carry so many teams in his past, but he just couldn't do it. It wasn't quite enough, and he needed a team around him. And LeBron has been a bit the same way, where I feel like LeBron has balled out a lot. His finals numbers are pretty good, even though historically he doesn't have a whole lot of wins. I mean, he's been to 10, as Brian said, in I think the last 13 years. And the reality is he's only won 3 of them. So he needs to play a team game to find a way to win, especially against a good team like Miami.
I just want to say, all the competition LeBron, you got to think about the competition LeBron's faced in the finals too. He's played all-time great Spurs team, all-time great Warriors team. It's been really tough for him in these final matchups. The only one you can really blame on him, the loss you can really blame on him, is the one against Dallas. But we'll see how this matchup goes for him. We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah, he hasn't been favored in very many finals. To speak to what you're saying, which is crazy when you think about how great he was. I would say that he had much harder competition in a lot of ways than Jordan did during his run for his 6 championships. I think Jordan went through some tough teams. I don't want to downplay those Jazz teams at all, but at the same time, the Warriors teams were talked about being one of the great. I mean, you go to 5 finals in a row, and the team and the matchups that they make obviously are very tough. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on the Western Conference Finals?
This series, I think the 3-1 comeback was kind of in play before Jamal Murray got injured. Then it was finished, whatever hope there was. They cut the lead down to 3 points going into the fourth quarter. But even then, the Lakers, I think they probably wouldn't have folded either. But it was an interesting matchup because I don't know, like Jokic was fouling like crazy. Like I think he committed a lot of mental errors. So I think that edge was going to the Lakers. And overall, it was just a pretty good series. Like game 2 was the one that could have gone either way, and that Denver can't keep falling behind 3-1. The Lakers, I think, yeah, I'm really impressed. Like going into the season, like not making the playoffs the previous season, that's a really big accomplishment. Like Miami, they didn't make the playoffs either to make the finals, and Anthony Davis has been, like, as you said, Robbie, the go-to player. Like that's pretty impressive with like his first year in the Lakers. And yeah, what more can you say? It's like Dwight Howard is like there are 4 former Wizards on the Lakers, which is pretty weird. And but it's just I mean, it's shout out to the Lakers. A lot of them weren't picking them before the season, but Vegas was right. They picked them, and they're in the finals.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, we have just a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to allow Tim and DC's People's Champ to give their thoughts on that series and what they're thinking is how the first couple of games are going to go in this upcoming series. So I'll start off with Tim. What are some of your thoughts on both of those things?
Yeah, I think quickly on the Western Conference Finals, Denver can hold their head high. Murray hasn't made an all-star team, but he definitely will, and people are going to know his name now and really pay attention. I think Arun touched on this, but the foul trouble to Jokic really killed them. In games where Jokic plays 35 or 40 minutes, they win a lot more often, but he does a lot of stupid mental mistakes on the defensive end and gets fouls early. But when he plays, he's vital. He's a great offensive player. So that was a big issue with them. And also just one thing that really impressed me with LeBron, we talked about his offense and all the times he's been in the finals, but at the end of game 4, when it was really close and the Nuggets had a chance to tie it 2-2, he took on guarding Murray at the end, like 3 or 4 possessions, and he shut him down. I mean, this guy who's much smaller, maybe quicker, and he, guarded him like one of the best point guards could. So I'm really impressed. And then in the finals, just for a quick preview, I'm tempted to pick the Heat, but it's not going to happen. I think Lakers probably in 6 games. I think the Heat will make it close, and I think they'll steal one of the first 3 games because that's kind of how the Lakers usually go anyway. But I still pick them. I think they're too deep. And when you look at the starting 5, it's a little bit stronger than Miami. So that's my pick.
Right. DC People Champ, what are your quick thoughts on those things?
Real quick, 2 things. 1, AD does stand for Anthony Davis, but it also stands for all day because he was making buckets all day, especially from beyond the arc. He's going to be dangerous in this final series. And number 2, like I said before, Denver is a very scrappy team. They showed how scrappy they were. They were able to take 1 from this very tough Lakers team, but they couldn't take more than that. And that's why we are at where we're at now with the Heat and the Lakers. Andre Iguodala in his 6th straight NBA Finals appearance. LeBron his 9th in 10 years. I mean, and Iggy been known to be able to lock down LeBron in the playoffs. I'm not going to pick the Heat. I almost got swayed towards the Heat on this one, but I'm sticking with, I think it's going to be Lakers, and I'm going to agree with Tim, Lakers in 6, because I think the Heat can definitely take 2 from the Lakers, but I think that the Lakers ultimately win the series.
Right. For the record, I also have the Lakers in 6, although I wouldn't be upset if it went 7 just because I would enjoy that. I'm rooting for the Lakers, but I'd like it to be a good series. Brian, your quick predictions.
I mean, I was going to pick Lakers in 6, but everybody else beat me to it.
Well, I mean, I think we can all be in agreement. It's not like there's like a set number of people who can say that. So.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think this will be a competitive series. I don't see it as a sweep or anything like that for the Lakers, but I do see like Tim said, I think one of the first 3 games, Miami, really, if they want any like real chance to win the series, I think they have to steal one of the first 2, to be honest. But if I do see them winning one of the first 3 games at least, And I just think the Lakers are going to be too strong. And just want to give one shout out to Udonis Haslem, who's now been in every finals the Miami Heat have ever been involved in, including their first finals appearance back in 2006. So Udonis Haslem deserves a shout out as well. And I think I said this in our chat, but this final does have Antetokounmpo and Leonard in it. It's just not the ones you think it is.
All right, Arun, your final quick thoughts, and then we'll and also maybe your goodbyes as well, since it's already 8:00.
I'll be the contrarian. I'll pick the Heat in 6. I don't know. And then my final thoughts are: I'm really looking forward to this Washington football team game against the Ravens. Maybe we'll see. It'll be a great matchup, and if RG3 plays like he will, then it'll be a great matchup for the Ravens, and let's see what happens.
Thank you, Arun. I appreciate it. Tim, your quick final message, and good luck to your Ravens tonight.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Monday Night Football. Even if the Ravens lose, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm also excited to talk about, like Arun said, the WFT Ravens matchup next week. I do think RG3 will play, but I think it's going to be in like the kneel down at the end. But we'll see.
Right, that sounds good. Yeah,
we can talk about it next week.
Yeah, I will remember across the board, everyone pretty much picked the Ravens in this one. So not many people took.
You never know. I mean, they could.
Last week we all picked them to beat the Browns, except for Arun, and Arun was the only one that was right. So, although I picked them in the Pick'em League to lose because I just had a bad feeling day of, but Arun had that foresight weeks in advance. So
yeah, he's got to make it to 2-14 somehow.
Right. All right, Brian. Well, thank you, Tim, so much. Good luck to your team. Guys. And Brian, final thoughts, and I'll let you go as well.
Let's go Yankees. That's all I have to say. Let's go Yankees. Beat Cleveland. Have a good night.
That sounds good. And DC's People's Champ, let people know what's happening on No Spots.
Oh man, well, we just put out a podcast today covering nights 3, 4, and 5 of the G1, the review of that, plus 6, 7, and 8 preview coming up this week. And also on the podcast, the regular podcast, we will review Clash of Champions, preview Takeover, NXT Takeover, and Bound for Glory. Not Bound for Glory. It's a pay-per-view coming up for Impact. We're going to review that too. So we got that coming for you. We'll see y'all.
Sounds good. And thank you so much. I appreciate it as always. And Dujanay, I've got you on just at the tail end of our NBA segment. I know that you are also a fan of the purple and gold. What are your thoughts feeling as they get back to the championship?
They're tough. I do like what Miami brings. They're small though, and that's going to be the thing that's going to plague them, is that they're small. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to give them a run for their money. But probably Lakers in probably 5, I think. I think they could possibly sweep them if they're focused. But we know the Lakers haven't been focused throughout any of the series. They're going to fall out here or there and not give it their all. And I expect Miami to be scrappy. So it should be fun.
Do you think that the Lakers will lose one of these first 3 and then sort of take it from there?
Yeah, that's what I see. I think one of the first 3 games they'll lose, and just like they kind of did with Denver, probably a little sooner with Denver, than what they did with Denver. But I think they'll lose one, and then it'll just be Miami will be close in a lot of them. But at the end, I think it'll be a takeover between AD, LeBron. I just think he's on a mission, man. He wasn't even like barely smiling at the end of that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be one of those deals.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting for sure. I'll let you guys get into some Washington football team talk, but I figured I'd pick your brain a little bit since a fellow Laker fan.
Yeah.
What's going on, Dujanay?
What's up, man?
Ain't nothing, man. Just thinking about this past game. I don't know if you got a chance to check out my post-game live I did yesterday. It's on my page. Go check it out. Me and Big Hurt broke it down and just talked about some of these word and some of the stuff going around about Haskins. We chopped up about this. And me and Big Hurt broke it down big time yesterday. I'm gonna preface my statement to saying I'm not trying to cover for Haskins because he's a black quarterback. He made mistakes. In my opinion, this loss is on him. His turnovers swung the tide of the momentum of the game, and he was making bad decisions. He was missing targets again. He was missing open receivers again. And even though I saw some progress from the offense in the first half, I'm not seeing enough progress from him on the field. I mean, we're hearing all of these good things about how much he studies film and we saw all the work that he's put in. We saw that he's taking it serious, but something I'm not putting the pressure on his week 3, but we need to see more improvement in his game in order to shut up some of these critics, which I really don't care about. But in order to get these folks off your back and take some of the pressure off yourself, he has to play better. What is your opinion on that? I know you've heard a lot of so much hate for Haskins and some of the folks you talk to and some of the social media stuff that you see. Do you feel like that's an accurate assessment of his performance yesterday?
If you want to assess his performance yesterday, that is very accurate. He suffered from things, such as bad mechanics. I saw you a part of it. You were talking about the route with the tight end, Logan. I think it's Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
Middle. And after kind of looking at the play again, I felt one way about the play, and I still feel that way. But I also can see your thing of it sailed. It did sail because of mechanics. It was also a very, very tough throw that, in my opinion, you could either say he either didn't see the safety over the top or he forced it in there hoping that Thomas would make a play, which he could have if his mechanics wasn't off also. You get what I'm saying? So I understand both sides of that. It's hard to say looking at it whether it was clear that the safety was coming down, but there's also clear that, Pat Mahomes or somebody would have probably taken a shot there and put the bet on their tight end who has that athletic ability to make that play. So I do see that the ball sailed, though, along with the fact that it was a tough throw and maybe you shouldn't have thrown it. He's 9 games, man. 9 games he's had. 3 different coaches, 2 that didn't even nurture the guy. I love all these people acting like in his first year he got so much teaching under that. Both of them, for that matter.
It's crazy how they forget how Jay Gruden threw him into the Giants game with no first team reps and no practice at all for real. And then at the end of the game, he's going to see, I told you wasn't ready. I wouldn't be ready either if I hadn't played with the first team and you throw me in a blowout in the third quarter.
No.
And unfortunately, that's been the narrative that folks been chiming off of ever since that happened, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And the next thing I'll go into is, everybody's like, oh, well, people are just making excuses for him. It's not an excuse when it's factual. Now, after that, after not having any care taken for him, not having the proper tutelage and the proper work being done from the off season through the season so that he can be prepared and grow, he's just getting that now and then has to get that in the COVID environment that we're in right now. None of that off-season work that he should have had last year that was half done last year, he doesn't get that this year with the full attention of a brand new coaching staff and a new system. And I tweeted this out yesterday about the fact that, to me, he reminds me of Jason Campbell. It has nothing to do with his play or anything like that. But Jason Campbell would have been fine if the proper care was given. Fans killed that guy, and he had no offensive line, no weapons, no help. And Haskins has new system, an offensive line that is now in shambles because your big piece has fallen. So now they're in limbo. They're all learning a new system and working together on the offensive line. And then you got a wide receiver core that has all of 2 weeks worth of work together in training camp. It's not an excuse. This is what you get when you have a completely overhauled team especially on offense, that's trying to find its way, and you're trying to bring up a young quarterback who really is now having his first year within a true system and true care, handled with true care and truly being worked with in this season. So he kind of got his rookie season scrapped. I don't care how many times he played. His rookie season was scrapped. You think they gave a crap? They knew they were on the first smoking train out of Washington.
We know how Jay feel about preparing guys that's not his guys, and how he gives them lack of practice and expect them to still be able to go out there and do a job. So,
right,
like you said, fresh start. Rivera has him in the right mindset. This is growing pains. You're going to have bad games, and in my opinion, like you said yesterday, I think this was his worst game as a pro. Even though he had okay numbers, this was his worst performance in all aspects of, as you said, not being aware, forcing throws, bad mechanics, bad footwork, trying to force the ball in the window. It was just a total, like you said, I wouldn't have been upset after the third interception if they would have.
And think about it this way. You got a young quarterback in a situation where I felt like they were, the Browns were bringing it, and they were really bringing it to them, and then they were putting points on the board. So now you're getting behind, and you're starting to get behind, and now you're starting to panic. Things are not working, and you're trying to make a play now. But you're trying to make a play with a bunch of guys that you ain't even thrown to, and timing is clear. Yesterday, timing with the receivers was off. The only guy that he was really able to get timing with was McLaurin, and that at times was off, whether it be both of them or him. You get to forcing things, and things get out of hand for a young quarterback. And these are things that he's got to learn to keep his composure. And remember, all these things have to work from head to toe, all have to be working together. And you have to do those things right in order to be able to make plays. And I'm sure Coach is going to work with him and make sure that gets done. But this is like a whole overhaul on this team. And for people to be acting like, this team's been together for 3 years, it's insane. But, I don't think they gave you like that guy that much crap as they're giving Haskins. But I'm just going to put that there.
Real quickly, I wanted to say one thing, because I think it's also showing how two different teams deal with a rebuild, right? So the Browns have been doing this for a while, right? So they've been they haven't been above 500 for a very long time. We saw the statistics, right? They finally broke that hump because they've been building slowly and steady to that point, right? Where I think the Washington football team has been the opposite. We've just kind of been eroding over time. We started from a place of greatness, and we kind of just sort of eroded, and then became this, 3-win team that you saw last year. And it's going to take a while to rebuild those parts back up again, I would say. And people want to win now. They're like, we got a new coach, we got a new this, we got a new that. Why aren't we winning? Why aren't we winning today? Because they'll see around the league that other teams are winning now, but they didn't have the erosion factor that we're seeing. The years, the pressure put on by the fans, the coaching carousel, the not believing in each other. And it wears away over time. And that's why now the Washington football team is a sub 500 franchise for the first time since the 60s. And the Browns are actually a winning franchise for the first time in 5 years, right? So you can kind of see how the different directions have taken. And I just want to give fans pause. Listen to what Julie said on our show last week, right? It's not going to be an overnight solution. And I know you want it to be. We all do. I was pissed when he didn't use his timeouts the last 2 weeks, even though I know fundamentally from an outsider's perspective, you're like, that's the right thing to do. Don't get hurt. You're building whatever, win-loss doesn't matter. You've seen progression that you're not going to come back and win this game. As a diehard fan, you want to use every timeout. You want to burn every minute. You want every final chance at the Hail Mary. And it's tough, and you have to sort of separate that. Like, what's good for the football team going forward and what's good for the football team today? And I think too many fans struggle with that separation.
Yeah, well, we all know fans are going to be fans, but it is what it is. But let me quickly go over these. Now, I went over them yesterday. I'm going to just touch on some of the numbers real quick. For Haskins, 21 for 37, 224, passing with 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, with the 58.8 quarterback rating. Baker Mayfield, 16 to 23, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 117 quarterback rating. I think those numbers are what we've seen from Haskins these first 2 weeks, and both of those games were, winnable. Now, when he's throwing the ball 37 times, at this point in the season, that's not a good look. I like the way the game plan started out in the first half. As I say, I saw a little progression because we saw them score points in the first half for the first time this season. We saw them actually move the ball, actually get some running yards in the running game in the first half, which we hadn't seen up until this point so far in the season. So then we saw the bad and the ugly in the second half with the turnovers, piling up. It was, pretty much done deal once that momentum swung to Cleveland. And like you said, dude, with Haskins where he is, they were just sending the kitchen sink with different angles almost every time he dropped back. And once they got the lead, it was pretty much curtains. It was just putting their ears back and going. Excuse me, I put that on Scott Turner a little bit with the play calling because in the first half he was, getting Wright involved, getting Gibson involved. And it's like once they started getting behind, it's like we saw Jay Gruden syndrome again. No type of strategy, just throw. No type of, game plan, just, we need points, we got to get down the field, let's throw the ball. Do you feel like that's an accurate assessment of yesterday's game?
I did feel like towards the end it got a little rushed, and they got away from what was working best too quickly. You saw Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, run the ball very well. That what they have going there, had the end around with Antonio Golden Gandy. So they had some things that were working, and that was enabling them to open things up and do little things in the passing game. And then they got behind a little bit, and it seems like there was a panic that set in. And you could see that it was a panic. Haskins looked rushed. A lot of the play calls looked to be rush calls to try to get a big bang for your buck, to try to get quick scores. And, if they had worked it the way they should have, worked it down the field, kept and stuck with the game plan, maybe it's a better turnout. I don't think they win the game. Defense didn't help very much, for various reasons, obviously. But I don't know if they would have won, but it definitely would have looked a lot better and palatable. And so, you have a lot of turnovers like that. It's never a good look.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see the game. I was watching on my phone, and I was in training to do some things. So I was hearing McClissick was having some good runs, and I saw some of the moves, some of the things that Gibson was doing. Like I saw right in the game. I missed the drop by Gandy Golden when he was that 20-yard catch that he was supposed to have that they overturned. I heard it on the radio when I was in transit. But I don't, like you said, panic is probably the right word because he had a good flow. He had an up-tempo flow, and I was enjoying seeing him grow also. We also have to give some credence to him too. He was in Carolina last year for half the season calling plays. He did some nice things with Christian McCaffrey, like I talked about earlier, 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing, first time done, I believe, in the NFL. And he has some growing pains to do too. I guess because I've had to endure 6 years of Jay Gruden, when I see that philosophy, it just frustrates me to no end. So when I started seeing it towards the end of the game, I was just like, let me go ahead and start writing my notes for post game because it's not going to do nothing to piss me off because it's not going to work. If it didn't work when you were pacing yourself and having a good game plan and mixing in the pass a little bit too much, then what makes you think that, just trying to do something, fancy is going to work now when the other team knows all you're going to do is pass? It's like counterproductive in my opinion. But I got to remember, he has to grow also.
And you have to think about with everything that they had going on, they got a whole, everybody's trying to get on the same page. And it's obvious that the timing isn't there with the passing. I don't even know at some points that the play calling would have been bad. If you had the timing and had everything working together, the offensive line, the receivers, the timing with the receiver and the quarterback, maybe some things would have worked out better. But they just don't have the timing right now. They don't have the protection right now to be able to run some of those plays. And you have to stick with what works, especially when you're having, to move guys around on the offensive line due to injury. So, there's some growing pains that are going to be had out there at right tackle. They're still trying to figure that out and the consistency there. So, I mean, there's so many factors. It's not just on Haskins, there's some throws that you're looking and you're like, nope. And I get it, but there's a lot of it as a young quarterback trying to make plays when you don't have the protection that you need. It rushes them a little bit. Then their mechanics suffer. Maybe if you had a full year last year and real work, you might not see some of these things you see now. It just goes to show that the previous regime really didn't do a good job of trying to work with him and bring him up to speed and really take that nurturing care with their first round draft pick. So here we are, and this is technically kind of his rookie season.
True. I couldn't say it better myself. If you're checking out the Monday Night Football game while you're checking us out, just started, well, not just started, 10 minutes, 43 seconds left in the first quarter, 0-0 Kansas City, Baltimore. Good matchup. I'm definitely going to be checking her out. I got homework, so I'm going to have it on the other TV with the volume down, but I got some homework to do tonight for my new job. So, I got to do some studying and stuff, which I hope Haskins is studying film today to not have those mistakes that he had yesterday, because it was frustrating watching it, because like I said on the first one, when I saw him throw it flat-footed, I was like, that's trouble. And it was trouble. So it's like you could see it, and I recall in one of Coach Rivera's press conferences, he said that when he sees something, sometimes he gets happy feet, and that's when his mechanics suffer. So this is a teachable moment, hopefully, because you can fix mechanics. It's about muscle memory. It's about doing the right things. Remember, he was only a one-year starter in college. Had a great season, but he was a one-year starter. So he has a huge learning curve that he still has to learn about playing the position of quarterback. On the play-by-play, we're talking about, using your eyes to, trick the defenders. Because on the second interception, he locked in on the dude the whole time, and the linebacker just waited for him to throw the ball. So these are things that he has to learn. And, we talk about Alex Smith, how he's mentoring him. I'm hoping, Alex is definitely in his ear after seeing that performance. It helps him, because definitely can't have another performance like that going forward. He already on the bench in my fantasy football, and he's about to get cut having a performance like that.
See, I think the lock-ons too were a little combination of two things. He couldn't trust some of his receivers to get open, and because he didn't. And the second thing, he didn't have the time, especially from the blind side. So he was staring some things down because he felt like he couldn't go to it, and reach his progressions the way he needed to, because he wasn't getting the time. And I think on those couple of plays, he had gotten comfortable with Inman and really stared him down too much. And you can't do that. He's got to be comfortable, and he's got to learn that no matter what, that he has to make the right reads and the right throws. Can't lock in on anyone no matter what. So, like you said, teachable moment here. And these are some of the things that you're just going to experience this year with a team that's, all trying to learn and come together and learn how to play as one collective unit.
No doubt. Let's see anything else about the offense. I got to give some credit to the offensive line. They did get a little bit of running when they got over 100 yards for the first time this season combined as a running unit. And they actually, except for the last play with Myles Garrett, they pretty much held him at bay for the most of the game. And he they have a nice front. So, but if you can keep him off the stat sheet pretty much the whole game, you got to give some credit. But I do want to call out Wes Martin. I know it's his second year, and he's getting thrown into the fray. But some of to me, he's taking too many plays off, or his technique is flawed, and he's getting beat on too many plays, which is both concerning at this point. Even though it's only week 3, I mean, those are things you work on in training camp. Even though you didn't have free season, those are things you still work on. You can work on those things. And to me, he was the weakest link on the line yesterday. And that's where I feel like most of the pressure was coming from. Like you said, it was blind side on that B gap right there between him and the center.
But look who he's playing beside.
True.
A young man, and I'm not making any excuses for him, but there's one thing that I always like, and it's pretty much been proven true. You can have some guys who aren't necessarily super polished on either side. If you can have a center, and they can play by an end on either end, left or right, that's solid, they're gonna play a lot better. But now they have some deficiencies. The guy they're playing beside has some deficiencies, and they're taking on, a monster as a pass rusher, and they're not always succeeding in that department. It exposes the guy inside of you, his deficiencies a lot more when that guy on the end is struggling and having to do twice as much, and because he can't compensate for his own deficiencies and he can't compensate for yours. So, if you had some nice bookends, I think you wouldn't see as many of the deficiencies as you do from Wes Martin. We'll see how it goes, because as the weeks go on, he should be improving. Now, he should be no longer that weakest link, and then it should expose that end for being what he is. He's either good or he's not. So if he doesn't do that throughout the weeks, then the two of them are exposing each other, and neither one of them are it. So it'll be interesting, and that'll be a thing to watch here in the next couple of weeks.
Very valid point. I got a question from Maroon Fantasy Football related, asking that I have Antonio Gibson on my squad. Ironically, no, I went up against him, going up against Big Hurt, who I'm actually have a decent lead on tonight. But he has the rookie running back for Kansas City, who I think that's running up. No, that's Tyreek Hill, thank goodness. But he has a rookie running back for Kansas City. But I think I'm up by like 20-something points. So I'm feeling secure unless they go off, but they're going against the Baltimore defense. So I'm thinking I should be good for the victory and put my record at 2-1.
That's not good enough. 20 is not good enough, because I have Hilaire too. That's not good enough. I'm gonna tell you that.
Man.
You are, that 20-point lead is in jeopardy. Scoring system is, but it's in jeopardy. So you better hope that Baltimore is.
That fact, since we're gonna have a quick fantasy football moment, since we talked a little fantasy football last week. Let me check. I have a 93-77 lead over my opponent, and he has Edwards Hilaire going tonight.
And you better hope it's somebody else's night, because if they decide to run the football tonight, he getting his, and that 20 points is in jeopardy.
It wasn't even barely 20. I overstated. So yeah. Now you got me worried. I was feeling comfortable now, man. Now you got me feeling worried, man.
Out of the backfield too? Come on, man. He ain't just running the ball. That's easy.
See, that's what's killing me, my running back position. I had Christian McCaffrey, but he's out 4 to 6 weeks. I got Joe Mixon, who's pretty much done nothing. I know it's Cincinnati, I know, but he's done nothing. I picked up Gaskins for the Dolphins. He gave me a little something. Smith-Schuster showed up this week, unlike last week. Godwin got me 12, and DK Metcalf came up big for me in that game last night. That's what gave me that nice little cushion that I'm hoping I could get through the night. Now you're going to have me watching this Baltimore game a little bit more closer now, Dujane.
You should. And I'm telling you, it is not safe.
Oh, man, I got to make sure I keep that on the background. I'm doing my homework. Robbie, do you have anything to
I wanted to bring up the Pigskin Pick'em group that we're in, just because I think it's fun that you're talking about Big Hurt, and he does a bunch of different groups, and we're all competing. We're all doing pretty well this week. We're all sitting right up there. Dujane, you have 8 points. I got 9. So does Carol for the week. We don't all agree on this current game right here. So Dujane, you and I both, I believe, took the Ravens, right? And we see that Carol here picked Kansas City. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Ginny was like, I can't believe he takes Kansas City. That's crazy, right? Yeah.
Hey,
No, but I thought that's interesting. We're all sort of at the top of the leaderboard for the week. I thought that was kind of fun, and we're right up there, all within a couple of games. And I already fed my dog, but she just wants attention, you know. So, but Dujane, what are some of your thoughts on this past week in the NFL in general, real quick?
Oh man, it was fun. It was a fun week to watch Josh Allen. I really like that. I like him as a player. I really hope he develops in being a really quality dual threat kind of guy. The Atlanta Falcons. Why does Dan Quinn still have his job? I mean, I can't use the excuse of Kyle Shanahan or any more excuses. The man been terrible since 28-3 in the Super Bowl. You lost 2 games and you had a 14-point lead. Come on, bro. Like, I don't know what Atlanta's doing, but I mean, the Clippers fired their man.
I saw Doc got fired today.
Semifinals and they fired him. But Quinn still has his job. Yeah, okay. All right. My last one, oh man. My last one is funny because I really wish I was sitting with a Cowboys fan when they actually thought that they were going to come back to win and see how they felt this week when it didn't happen. Because it's just happenstance. There's no skill to that, right? Like, obviously there must be some skill to blowing 14-point leads, but there's no skill to come back from that depth when you dig yourself a hole like that. Can't do that all season long. And get away with it, and they weren't able to get away with it this weekend. So I wish I was sitting with them to see the up and the real excitement and like, oh my goodness, we're gonna do it again, and the heartbreak.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned the Doc thing because I really wanted to get that into our NBA thing, and I just couldn't fit it in there. I can't believe 3 times he's blown a 3-1 lead, and just but I don't blame it on him so much. I don't think it's just so it's a shame that he's out of a job because I think he's a great coach. I think he'll get picked up again pretty easily, even with that record. So
He definitely go to a team that's rebuilding. He's definitely a great coach for rebuilding and get the right pieces and the right thing going. And he can hopefully make another run again. But I love Doc because he got my man KG his ring. So he's always been a favorite of mine, even when he played. I like his gritty style back in the day. But yeah, I think he might take some time off. He's been stressed with all the stuff that's been going on in the outside world with the politics and the climate of the country right now. So I think he might take some time off just to spend with his family and just chill.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would too. No, that makes a lot of sense. But I am happy that you got that in there because I did want to talk about that. But yeah, it's been an interesting week for the NFL in general. I didn't do as well as I had done last week, but we're still sort of climbing back into it, and that was an interesting one. Yeah, I didn't have that, so for sure.
No,
like if I win tonight, I have first dibs on myself. I just checked the other person; he went for the Ravens too. So yeah, Kansas City just scored to make it 7-3. As long as it wasn't a running back, I'm happy.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's interesting. Arun also picked Kansas City, so I see that he's still listening in. So, but I know that because he's friends with Tim, would not be rooting for Kansas City. But that's his that's his pick.
Y'all kill me. Y'all pick one team, but then root against them when you're actually watching. I could never do that. I could never do that.
Well, I mean, but who you think is going to win a game and who you want to win a game isn't always the same, right? I mean, it's just.
True. I never thought about it like that. I just look at it as I want my team to win. I don't.
Right. So, but otherwise, I'd pick the Washington football team every week, and that would not do well for me. I do notice that's what you do.
3 years and pick.
And I am the opposite. So there we get the yin and the yang. I bet against my team every week, so that way when they lose, I've got it right on pick 'em. I don't double lose. So it's it's a different philosophy, right? So
I never put that X there, man. I just can't do it, man.
I know. My dad taught me at a young age, always bet against your team. At least you'll win something. So So anyway,
Not even going to touch that.
yeah. All right. Well, Dujanet, I think we'll. Any other news, notes, things people can catch you on that you want us to let us know about before you get out of here tonight?
We've got 2 new Saints articles up. Obviously, they're not doing as great as they would like, but kind of some of the same things. Just penalties, man. Penalties and execution is a big problem for them. You can catch those sportsjourney.com podcast. We'll have a new one up, but there are new episodes up. Episode 29 is up, so if you want to check that out. And this week we're going to do a little something different, man. We're going to touch on some big topics that have happened in the NFL and just around the sports realm, and kind of talk about those things this week. So it'll be an interesting show. It'll be a little bit different.
Real quickly on the Saints thing, they crushed one of my friends. She had a 14 for 14 parlay going into that game, 95K going up, and was rooting for the Saints. That was last week, and obviously we didn't know the result of it because it was during our show. And I was also, I had the same picks on our pick'em. No one in our pick'em, by the way, picked Vegas to win that game, and I feel for her though. 95K, so close. Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. But I look forward to listening to all the great topics you have on the show, and I appreciate your football coverage as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Dujanet, take it easy, bro. I'll talk to you later on, man.
All right, brother.
Sounds good. All right. Well, then we'll bring in our next guest here, Anna Knox, who's following the Stanley Cup Finals game that's going on, and she's nice enough to be joining us, even if she isn't feeling 100%. But I appreciate the effort. It'll be like the flu game, for Jordan, right? Or just an iconic appearance, even,
I wish I could be compared to his greatness, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
That's how it is on the sports. She tucked it out for the kids. That's what it's all about. She can be laid up, drinking a hot toddy right now with her feet.
Yeah. Still having a cocktail. I'm not out of it completely.
Come on here and talk sports for you guys.
Right. I appreciate it.
The cup. Perfect.
Right. Yeah, the cup going. We'll talk about the cup. Just to reset everybody who's watching it live, I right now have a 0-0 with about 9 minutes left in the first period or so, therefore. And just to give people a scoring update, Kansas City is up 6-3 over the Ravens. 6:30 left in the first quarter in that game. So, yeah, it's been an exciting week for hockey fans. Anna, why don't you remind people sort of where we were coming from and
Sure.
how the week kind of transpired, and then we could get into a little bit of this live game as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, talking to you guys last week, I think we all were like, well, you two were all pro Tampa Bay, and I'm still pulling for the Stars in this one. So last Wednesday, the Bolts came out strong, literally from the beginning. There was nothing that was going to stop this team. You could just see they just had that drive. And when you look at the final score of 5-2, but you look at who scored. So you have Hedman, Kucherov, Palat, Point, and Stamkos. And I have to say, as much as Tampa Bay and the Capitals are kind of this, I have nothing but respect for Stamkos. He came out for, I think,
two and a half minutes, I believe.
2.5 minutes, and he scores.
Yeah, 6 shifts, I think 2.5 minutes, I think is what it was. And he never came back in the second period or anything, but he just came, gave them that lift they needed, that edge that they needed, and momentum that they seem to have taken, even with him now being out for the rest of this series. You got to wonder what it was that he could just go in and just put in, because even if they just get that win, and that's the win that propels them, right? Like, even if they did nothing else, which I agree with the idea. If back-to-back, I would not have played him, maybe in the second game, but like when you're trying to roll lines to try to deal with 2 games, especially both these games, we'll get into them in a second, both overtime games, which they didn't know going into it, but it's a possibility, right? And he would have been a hindrance on your team because you can't give one player 2 or 3 minutes. You need to kind of spread it across the whole entire thing. So they did the right thing to give him the win and then, I guess, shut it down.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let Carol break down that first game where it's amazing. Stamkos came back. Do you have any thoughts on that and sort of the rejuvenation of Tampa Bay there?
I mean, he's a pro athlete that, fortunately for this pandemic situation, gave him enough time to, get back healthy so he could make an appearance in the Stanley Cup Finals and hopefully, be able to hoist that cup. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, when we talked about it last week, I said if he could get back healthy enough, he is going to play. And, you was talking about the chemistry with the team and that. But if you have your superstar that's fought back from the injury and you're still in, heat of the Stanley Cup Finals, I mean, as a coach, you kind of have to put that player in there.
Yeah, even if he's just an extra bench coach and you play a man down, I mean, that's got to be such a spark being that this guy's sitting here through whatever he's going through. We're all going to step up our game because he wishes he could be out here so much he's still in the bench, and so that definitely gave him such a huge
Point
lift.
just scored.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
nice.
Wow.
There you go. They're Tampa Bay's up now 1-0. I've got 7:30. I was looking at other stats, so I didn't actually see that. So thank you for letting us know. So Tampa Bay has come out early. Dallas has been one of those teams that have kind of come back in a lot of these games a little bit, though. So there's still a lot to be played. Anna, let's break down this next game that goes into overtime. It's a very exciting game.
This was definitely. So this game 4, you have that Lightning coming back again. And just, I think this is when some of us were thinking, maybe it's just not, Dallas isn't just going to run with it. So you have, Friday it was 5-4 and it was victory for Tampa Bay, who now then took the series 3-1. But they, again, just unstoppable. They just had that momentum. They just clicked. They just looked good. Not that the Stars didn't play well because they still scored 4, but there was just something about that Tampa Bay team that it was like Stamkos came out, they got the ball rolling and they kept it going. So it was a good win. I have heard some chirping of people acknowledging Shattenkirk. I was never a huge fan when he was on the Caps, but he seems to be doing really well on this team. So good for him. He's going to score and an assist. So in that game, I should say.
Right. I think none of us on this panel really were a big Shattenkirk fan. So I will say that. He did not play well, especially for the contract that he was trying to get. Then New York gave him the contract he was trying to get anyway, even though he didn't play that great for us. Then he didn't live up to that contract.
Yeah, right.
Basically, on a minimum contract, he's playing amazing, right? So happens sometimes, maybe when the pressure is off from the big contract. And, New York and Washington are both these big media markets where in Tampa Bay, he's not going to be – there's so many other big names on that team. Maybe a little of the pressure is off of him if he's on one of those lower lines.
Right.
Yeah.
I always thought he was overrated.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree, but he did show up when it counted the most. Now, the ending was really interesting. I mean, there was a lot of penalties in this game, especially in the third and in overtime. Some were questionable calls. Some people thought some people don't believe that there should be a dive and a penalty called on the same play. It's either a hook or a dive, right?
Right.
When you kind of hook to the groin area. And they think that it's kind of a cheap way for the official to get out of a power play being called or a way around it. I don't know. Carol, did you see that play? I think it was a hook. I don't think it was a dive.
I mean, actually, no, I honestly didn't see the play, but just from, you saying that it should be either one or the other. But sometimes there is a penalty, and sometimes you have a player that embellishes it so the referee will call it. And those are the ones that are like, if you see a stick in the skates like a little bit, but then he dives like 15 feet in the air, like, he did it on purpose, they're going to call embellishment. So
we'll call embellishment. I'm fine with him.
It is a bailout in a tough situation, but sometimes it is, embellishment, because Brad Marchand is the master of that. And I wish they would call him more for embellishment on some of the stuff that he does.
No
and
doubt.
He goes out and does some of the crazy stuff on ice that he does, and they don't call it nothing. I'm like, man, he in the referee's pocket or something.
I'm convinced he was a former, soccer player. Like that's his theatrics are pretty spot on. So he'll be a DC United player one day.
Right.
You don't want him down here.
I'm kidding.
I don't want no DC.
I know.
Yeah, no,
That'd be terrible.
And I'm fine with him calling embellishment when it's embellishment, or I understand what you're saying. Sometimes calling both, and it's just a frustrating. I don't think that should have been called, but there's a call in overtime that ultimately led to it. That they said that it was hooking. That I don't. Maybe it could have been. They took him down with his other arm. They didn't.
Right.
So that's frustrating for sure. What were some of your thoughts on that? Do you think the penalties were okay, or did you?
I think I agree with you that there were a couple that I was like, really? I'm not sure I'm on board with that. And I think especially when it's not either one of, it's not the Capitals. So you're really starting to kind of be able to sit back and watch the game with a little less bias. I don't know. I think that was probably of the 5 games, that was the worst calls. I think they've been pretty fair and pretty okay, the whole time. But yeah, there was something about the hooking. I guess it just wasn't. It just because when it's never just so like 100% that it's everyone's going to come up with something.
Yeah, no, and I don't want it to be an excuse. And I know that a lot of Tampa Bay fans, I was talking to a couple of them afterwards. They deserved the win and whatever. And Dallas had a chance at the power play earlier in overtime. It's not like they were the only team to get a power play in overtime.
Right.
But I still think, I wish that if 2 officials saw things differently, they could mutually agree to go to a video review. So it's not like it's all the time, right? But I think the trail official sometimes sees things one way, and then the lead official sees it very differently.
Yeah.
But they don't want to step on each other's toes, so they just go with it, whatever. And I think that sometimes people have different angles, and the game has just gotten to a point where it's so fast that I think that they should have a conversation and maybe I saw it a little bit differently. Maybe it looked like a trip from my angle, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe he just fell on his own skates or whatever it is.
Right.
But just to get it right, especially in the playoffs, especially in overtime, you hate for it to be decided that way. I would have preferred a 5-on-5, really pretty goal, right, to decide it, not kind of a greasy goal that was decided in a overtime, because of a questionable penalty call. But it is what it is, and we don't get to decide how these games end. And
they could hire us, but they don't.
Right, exactly. So all right, so this goes in. Carol, any thoughts on any more on that game, or should we get into the last game?
All right, let's go ahead and get to the last game. I've been watching this Kansas City-Baltimore game. Kansas City actually missed the extra point, so it's 6-3. And Kansas City has the ball and driving on. Baltimore was a minute left in the first quarter. They're on Baltimore. It's looking like 38 right now. And that little running back is causing problems already. My fantasy football is in trouble, I see.
Yikes. All right, Anna, the last game, an overtime game that went the other direction.
It did. I thought this was just an exciting and outstanding game. I loved every part of it. Hands down, for me, not just because I'm pulling for Dallas, but Khudobin. The guy's a beast. I just love his story. I love, he's an older guy. He's just, is how he is in the locker room, just his mannerisms. I think he's fantastic. And you have 39 saves, 41 shots, and back to back. He hasn't, this was oh my God, both the goalies are, absolutely to be respected, but Khudobin is just fantastic. So we have Dallas scoring the only goal in the first, and the Bolts scoring the only goal in the second. And then both teams rally to tie it up and going into double overtime. And I love the fact that we're having these players that people I can say people in San Jose were giving up on Joe Pavelski because they were just all right, you have it, but you're not consistent. And so when they let him go, it sucked because he was with them for so long, but he's doing so well. And I think he's 36. And Corey Perry, I love those kinds of stories where, the ones who, the kind of the unsung heroes in this, I think they've proven themselves as leaders. And I think it's just awesome.
Yeah. I think, is it Joe Pavelski? Is he the highest scoring U.S. born now in playoff history? So,
yeah.
I mean, he scored 2 more goals in this game, right? In that game, and
I think him
including
and
the
Corey
game
have
winner.
7 or something like that in the series.
But I think overall in his career,
Oh yeah,
yeah, he got 2 more, and I think that put him in the number 1 place or something like that. So, but yeah, it's just really kind of a cool story. I was obviously rooting for a game 6, so we could cover it tonight.
right.
But just a great story overall. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on this series and in that game?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely an interesting series, the double overtime game. I was definitely watching it, and then the 1 second I turn away, they score. I was like, damn it. Set up for this long time, and then I think I flipped the channel or was checking the stats or something. That next thing I know, I look up, they doing the post game presser. I'm like, damn it, I missed it that quick.
Just that
So, I
fast.
mean, to have it go to double overtime and Tampa have the chance to clinch the cup in the double overtime game would have been nice. That's what I was thinking was going to happen. But Dallas, like I said, they're a pesky team, and they gritty, they hungry, they want that cup too. So Tampa, they better close it out tonight because Game 7, all bets are off. It's anybody's game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a flip of the coin, and whoever hustles more and bounce to the puck. So Tampa better close it out tonight. If not, it's anybody's game if it's a Game 7.
Oh, there's a bit of a dust up here. And I find the stat is 61 goals. And I think you were right, though. I think Corey Perry was the one who scored the game winner goal.
Yeah, in second in overtime.
But Belsky's one to tie it up, obviously, was very important. Yeah, so
I think it was funny because I think after the post game interview, he was interviewed, and they're like, "Hey, like you, is it Mullins or something? Like he was tied, and what are your thoughts on that?" And he's like, keep it, move on, like next question. So, and it, you kind of just want to laugh because it's like you sound like such a jerk, but he's, got the horse blinders on, like they're ready to go. And this is definitely the most physical I've seen them. I haven't seen a whole lot of drop the gloves and not as much as I had. Actually, I didn't really expect it so much with these two, but
yeah, we kind of talked about it last week how we didn't think that they were going to, and that stayed true for most of the series. That they've been mostly on their skill, and I'm not to say that it hasn't gotten gritty and grimy at some points, but any in-depth series like this would have that. But I think in general, it's been a fairly clean. The penalties are stick penalties, not fighting penalties, and things like that. So
we have some breaking news in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes has just been fastest quarterback to reach 10,000 yards. Took him 34 games. He just broke Kurt Warner's record, who did it in 36 games. He just hit 10,008 yards already, 34 games.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I mean, obviously, if they weren't playing the Ravens right now, I'd probably be gunning for him, but they are, so they're not. But
I picked him with my little fantasy pool, but I have to say I have nothing but respect, even though they took out the Niners in the Super Bowl. He's a fantastic athlete and just seems like an overall good guy, but that is some skill there. 10,000 yards. Good for him.
Yeah, already. That's crazy.
Great.
Yeah. It looks like, Victor Hedman is going to be called for the trip there, and that's going to send the Lightning to the box, and the Stars will get a power play opportunity here. See if they can tie it up. Interference is what the call is, but
we'll call it what it is.
Yeah, it's a stick getting in the way of a player, so you can call it whatever you want to call it. But right, I guess they thought more of his body got in the way, not just the stick. So, so the 124 left in the first period here, so this will be kind of the tail end here of this period. But just overall, I thought the series has been fantastic. Yeah. I don't really want it to end. I'm pulling for Dallas in this game, so I'm obviously pulling for them in this power play here, just to make it fun, because we talked about it a little bit earlier. The most exciting day in playoff history is potentially happening on Wednesday, and I'd love for a Game 7 to be a part of it, because you have the first time in history 8 baseball games in the playoffs one day, on Wednesday. Then you add the NBA Finals starting on that day, and then you could potentially add a Game 7 in this series to that. I mean, I can't
Good
imagine more playoff stuff happening in one day in the history of sports. So, like, it could be a really exciting Wednesday, which is a really random day for it to be so exciting.
Yeah, right.
But you know, I'm hoping so. Go Stars! There was a shot on goal there, but unfortunately, I did not go in there. It was a 77-mile-per-hour shot by Tyler Seguin, but it's out of the zone. 52 seconds left in this power play. Only about 12 seconds left in the period, though, so they got to get up and move here going into the offensive zone. They do get the offensive zone. About 6 seconds left. Get it back to the point. They try to get a shot. It is blocked up high. That'll probably do it. There'll be about 36 seconds of this power play on the other side of the first intermission. So a good game, close game.
Yeah.
Dallas has been known to, I mean, both these teams have come back plenty of times in the playoffs, and nothing is kind of off the table at this point.
Not at all, especially when you have that Saturday game, the double overtime. You know they're tired, and not just the goalies.
And a back-to-back, so it's a back-to-back overtime and a double overtime.
I was and nobody gave up. Like, I mean, they didn't say like, oh yeah, okay, you know, they just you know, we're done kind of thing. Like, they are fighting for this, and it's just, you know, skill hockey at its best right now, and I'm loving it. So yeah, I would be excited for a game 7. Absolutely. I don't think Dallas is going to go down. You know, I really feel strongly about Seguin and Pavelski making a name for themselves tonight.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that it might be 12 periods of hockey, right, in the matter of like 3 or 4 days. Like, I mean, because like when you think about it, it's like 3 full games in 2 days, 1 day off,
yeah,
and then they're back to it. And if this goes to overtime, I mean, who knows? Like, so that's that's a lot.
It's crazy. It is. I'm like, I'm tired for them.
Yeah, I think it's unprecedented in some ways in the Stanley Cup Finals. And
did you just use a COVID word?
Yeah, unprecedented. Right. Yeah. No.
Just kidding. So that's good. That's good. Well, hopefully I'll get a chance to see you guys on.
Yeah, I think we'll have you on at the tail end of next week's show just to break down whatever happens the rest of this game. And if there is a game 7, we can break that down quickly as well. And then any of our quick hockey thoughts going into the off season. And that'll sort of be the tail end of our show. We haven't really announced it yet, but I think the show, for anyone that's interested, since we are kind of wrapping up in a couple of minutes, I think we're going to keep the same format. We're going to start with baseball playoffs to start the show, then continue with the NBA finals talk, and then start it with football talk to start the second hour, keep it in its normal time slot, and then end with some hockey talk, as this has worked out well, at least on our end. And so we really appreciate, Anna, you coming in, breaking it down with us. And I've been enjoying to be able to talk a little bit more hockey and not Capitals with you and sort of breaking it down. Carol, any final thoughts before we wrap up this hockey segment?
Like I say, it was good to have, Stanley Cup Finals. Unfortunately, Capitals aren't in it, but it's definitely been an entertaining series. Definitely been some good hockey played. Like I said, a double overtime game. What more could you ask for in a Stanley Cup elimination, game? Unfortunately, like I said, I'm rooting for Tampa, so hopefully they can close it out tonight. And like I said, I got homework to do, so I really can't watch too closely. I just got to keep getting updates every now and again. So I got homework to do after the show. So
all right. Oh, nice. Well, yeah. Make sure you do all your homework. And this former teachers on this end, and the current teacher down here. So.
Carol, what are your priorities tonight?
Right. So.
I got out of training, came home, prepped for the show, doing the show, and as soon as I finish the show, I'm gonna eat my dinner and I'm going to do my homework.
Boom.
Okay, good.
Dude, committed. There you go. I like it. Showing initiative, right?
Carol, by the way, congratulations on the new job.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Like I said, if anybody needs a new Honda, Saturday I should be on the lot, so come holler at your boys.
Hey.
There you go. Nice. I've when I was in high school, I had a Honda, and I really liked it a lot. So I'll give a shout out to Honda Civics. So.
I have a Honda Pilot. So.
Oh, there you go. There you go. We have.
Come on down.
There you go. If you need a brand new one, we know who to talk to. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll just tell Ian that. Let's get on that. So no problem.
I'll let him know.
Right.
Right. Exactly. The perfect time.
Exactly.
So the But we really enjoyed having you on, Anna, and we'll have you on next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Take care, stay healthy. My gosh, don't get, I don't know, whatever this is. I think it's just allergies, but everyone's like,
feel better for sure.
Yeah, can like come with a little bit more spark. All right,
good.
Thanks,
Well, you brought it ananyway. It was a championship performance in our book.
Oh, well, thank you. There we go. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week.
All right, bye.
All right, have a good night.
All right, sounds good. All right, Carol, we did it. This time we're closer to our 2-hour mark, which, the last, I was doing the math. All 10 weeks of the season have broken the 2-hour mark. We haven't gotten it under yet. A lot to talk about, but we're right at our sweet spot tonight, and so that's great. And I really enjoyed all the topics we talked about.
Yeah, definitely. You had a great show as always. Like you said, you go check them out. If you don't catch it live, go check out SportsOTHP.com. And you can get the live feeds, or you can go to, they have the links, probably have the links there for Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. You can listen to it, you can watch it, but it's, it's what we do. Some great content. Hopefully you enjoy it.
One more shout out for Julie Donaldson. I'm so thankful for her for coming on. And if people haven't had a chance to listen to it, I mean, to have the vice president and the chief media person for the Washington football team really break down some of those questions that we asked her, I thought she just did a fabulous job, and I can't thank her enough for coming on, and hopefully we get to work with her going forward. She's a great resource, and she's opening up a lot of doors for media in Washington Football Team Park, I guess they call it. I don't know. It's a great thing. She's doing big things over there. It's wonderful to see a woman taking those reins and just really running away with it, bringing all sorts of new things to it, and just a great personality, someone who's been big in this area for a long time. And I'm really excited for her. And it was really cool that we had that opportunity to ask her some of those big questions. And I really hope that people go back and check that out.
Definitely. We appreciate it as always. Sports OTHP, True Radio Network, DC Sports About the Politics. Not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. We'll be back next week with another episode. Not sure how many times you're going to see me this week. I'm in training. Got work to do. But stay tuned. I still try to do the breakdown show on Friday. I don't believe we have any photo shoots or commercials to shoot this Sunday. So I'm not sure if I'm working. But if I'm working, I can do the post game. I might even try to do the post game, but I'll be doing that at the bar radio. Once I get my schedule, I'll let you guys know. Keep you posted on what's coming on and coming through the Sports and Hill Podcast, CP3 Live from the Lab, Robbie G, Anna K, Brian B, Room B, the Fusion A, man. We got a lot of B's. It's crazy. It's really hot. But for all of the Team Sports OTHP family, appreciate you tuning in, checking us out, and we'll see you next week. CP3